Here we are.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Robin Kall of Reading with Robin, and here on behalf of A Mighty Blaze, and here to welcome you to our very first Celebrity Spotlight. So excited, and I will first introduce Rebecca. Rebecca Dinerstein Knight is the author of both the novel and screenplay, The Sunlit Night, and a bilingual English-Norwegian collection of poems, Lofoten, which I probably messed up. Her nonfiction has appeared in the New York Times, The Guardian, The New Yorker, online, among others. Born and raised in New York City, she lives in New Hampshire. We're here to celebrate Hex. And now, Anne Lamott is a national treasure. She's the author of 7 stupendous novels, including All New People and Crooked Little Heart, and 11 books of nonfiction, including Bird by Bird, Traveling Mercies, Operating Instructions, Hallelujah Anyway, and Almost Everything, Notes on Hope. A political activist and public speaker, she has such a huge following. She is often called the people's author. Lamott has described why she writes. I try to write the books I would love to come upon that are honest, concerned with real lives, human hearts, spiritual transformation, families, secrets, wonder, craziness, and that can make me laugh. When I am reading a book like this, I feel rich and profoundly relieved to be in the presence of someone who will share the truth with me and throw the lights on a little. And I try to write these kinds of books. Books for me are medicine. And I can't believe I'm quoting Anne Lamott in front of Anne Lamott. For a mighty blaze, my day is made. Welcome to A Mighty Blaze, Anne Lamott. Such an honor to have you here. And Rebecca Dinerstein Knight, take it away, you guys.
Thank you. I got the time mixed up. I thought it was 4 o'clock my time, and I take a nice nap and have had the 4 or 5 meals that are scheduled between now and 4 o'clock my time. And then it turned out it was 1 o'clock here my time. So my glasses are transitioned, but while we're speaking, Rebecca, they will become clear again. And you can see my eyes. I'm looking at you with enormous appreciation and respect. You're an amazing, mesmerizing, hypnotic writer. And but I think you should tell us about your book. First of all, I have all these questions. I'm going to take my glasses off so I look more adorable and I don't look like Roy Orbison or something, but then I can't see my questions. So what I want you to do is to just tell us about Hex. Tell us what it's about. Tell us a little bit about the Suckerson.
First, I just need to thank you. I need to thank you, Anne, for joining us here today. I need to thank A Mighty Blaze. I can't believe any of this is happening. When I was a child, and my mother first started thinking that I might want to be a writer, the first person she told me about was you. The very, very first book that was ever recommended to me in my whole life was Bird by my mother.
Wow.
And that is the true origin story of all of my work. And then this terrible disaster happened, and from nowhere, a group of really resilient and enterprising and generous people came together. Instead of isolating and instead of panicking, came together and formed A Mighty Blaze. Thank you to Caroline Levitt and to Robin and to Jenna, who organized themselves in a time of total panic and created this incredible support system. I'm beyond grateful. And that they extended it to me and that they extended you to me is just such an extraordinary privilege. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for speaking with me today.
I'm so glad to be here with you. So tell us about your book.
Okay. So here's the book, Hex. I'm excited about it. It came out this week. It's a wild week to publish a book. My publisher, Viking Penguin Random House, has done such a beautiful job of changing with the time in real time. I was just about to leave on tour to go to California, and that very day, the Penguin office shut down, and that very day, everything turned upside down. So everybody has really rebalanced. And somehow the incredible thing about literature right now is that it's still available to us, which is another incredible privilege. I know so many artists and dancers and theater artists who don't have the opportunity to share their work in the same medium. Hex is still here, so here's what it's about. It's a love hexagon. It's 6 characters who feel really various forms of attraction toward each other. I started with 6 points in a diagram and wanted to understand how 6 figures could engage in the most complex and atypical forces of attraction toward each other. From there, it just became something pretty fun. There are a lot of poisonous plants in it, trying to wreak mayhem, and a lot of people trying to counteract them with better forces. There's a lot of devotion in it, which is a force that I really appreciate. And ultimately, I think there's a lot of friendship, in addition to some real romance. So it's a pretty human story. It's also a story of the natural world. And I hope that everybody likes it.
Well, people can go to publishersweekly.com and read a really, really amazing review that you got there. And it also will fill them in on some of the themes. I mean, it's about love and friendship. It's about our connectedness to each other, to as we are now in the quarantine, that we're all in this together, and that there are connections that we can't see that save us invisibly, and sometimes over coffee tables, over dining room tables. So what did you learn while writing this trippy, mystical witchcraft adventure that takes place? What's the name of the college in it?
Columbia, yeah.
Oh, it's Columbia, right. Neil, my IT guy and husband, got his master's at Columbia. What did you learn while you were writing this, and how does that change you as you are probably beginning a new book?
Right. It's a great question. I learned so much. I grew up in New York City, so I didn't have access to a garden. I didn't know very much about planting and about seeds and bulbs, or even the difference between what types of plants need to be inserted into the soil at what times of year. I also wanted to learn a little bit about the chemical makeup of the natural world, so I could think about how it works and how it can be unraveled and reformed. So I started from the beginning with flowers in Shakespeare, flowers in the ancient Greeks, flowers throughout time, and tried to trace that through the whole history of what became called witchcraft because it was so beautiful and so mysterious. The history of how the natural world has been interpreted as a threat, how it has been worshipped as a source of healing. All of these disciplines, I shut myself up in an apartment in Hudson, New York for many moons and learned. And I came out of it with some plants that I loved, some myths and some mysticism that I loved, and 6 characters that I wanted to write about.
Yeah. And what could you tell writing students now about writing that you really didn't know 6 months ago?
Great question. How important it is to create an idea that you're committed to, and then honor that idea every day. For me, the most important thing was simply confronting the sheer document of the work every morning. So I would wake up, I would have a bowl of Kix cereal. Sometimes I would also have a banana, I'd have a cup of coffee, and then I would sit down and open the document, come rain or come shine. And the question really wasn't how far I would get or how much I would write, but having that daily relationship to your work is the thing that I think carries the project forward. And in my mind, the most challenging task is actually finishing the work. You're going to write something beautiful if you write what you're really interested in, but most people simply don't finish the work they're most interested in. So I think if you can keep at it in a daily pace and get to the end of your own idea, you stand the chance of writing something really meaningful.
Uh-huh. I always tell my writing students, I actually only teach once a year, but I always tell them, write what you'd love to come upon, you know, and Hex is a book I can just imagine contains all the elements of what you love that you, I mean, you found characters you could spend a couple of years with, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's really hugely important for a writer, because the first year you're just getting to know them, like you're getting to know a person in what we might call real life, although it's not very real life anymore. But you got to find people and themes that you can spend a couple of years with. How long did this book take you?
You know, this book came to me in like a power surge. Nell's voice was the only voice I could hear. So I worked on this book. I wrote it in a fever for about 9 months straight, and then I set it aside. And then I came back to it with a really wonderful editor at Viking named Alison Lorentzen, who really helped me bring out its biggest energy and its brightest light. And we spent another couple of months editing it. But this one came kind of quickly, which was a big relief because my first novel took 6 years.
Yeah.
So,
I read your first novel. When did it come out?
oh my gosh, 2015. I'm in shock.
You know, Carolyn Levitt probably turned me on to it. And Carolyn Levitt, I think we can all agree, is going to get a great seat in heaven, like
That's
with
so
the
true.
librarians and the public school teachers.
It's really true.
Yeah, near the dessert table. And, but anyway, yeah. And I can you describe what that biggest energy is that your editor helped you bring forth? Can you just?
Definitely.
It's hard to put into words because it's about life. Life is that big energy. Love it, love, and the wildness of it all, the trippiness of it all, how you were describing the plants, the seeds, you know, the roots, the vines, the way that we're discovering that trees are communicating with each other, that they're all in contact, that there's only one of them, there's only one of us. But so it's hard to put into words, but try to capture what your editor helped you bring forth.
Definitely, with pleasure. I think the essence of this book to me, as I mentioned before, is devotion, this sense of real focus and commitment to a person, to one's work, to oneself. And there were certain moments in the book where Nell, the main character, would refer to the intensity of her feeling, but it wouldn't be there on the page.
Mm-hmm.
She would have a set of memories or a set of instincts toward another character in the book that Nell was intimately familiar with, but that the reader didn't get to share in. So my editor really encouraged me to go back and to put that longing and to put those moments that build up a love onto the page and not assume that the reader is able to feel them as immediately as Nell is. And that led me to add some new writing to the book that wound up being some of my favorite writing in the book because it was really what was most important to Nell.
Yeah, well, that's well put. What do you want your readers to know about you? What can you share with us? What do you want your readers to know? What do you especially want us other writers in your carouse to know?
How wonderful. What a generous question. I love love and I'm very thankful for the world. I do think that's my bottom line. And right now, I'm sort of in this moment where I have these 2 books out. There's a movie coming out of my first novel, The Sunlit Night. And I'm really hoping to have the opportunity to keep writing. That feels like the biggest gift, and that feels like why one writes, to be encouraged to keep writing. So that's really my focus right now. I'm madly in love with my husband, and I really hope that those who are working on their projects right now are able to see them through and see them to the finish line and find themselves fulfilled. Yeah.
You got to have one person who, come hell or high water, is just so crazy about your your way with words and the stories that resonate for you, that you want to blurt out all the time, who no matter what just urges you to keep going. My son has a tattoo on his forearm that says, "We never give up." And you really, I mean, the publishing world can be so harsh and so it just gobbles people up. You know, you really have 2 weeks for your book to get noticed, and you may have spent 6 years on it, and either you luck out, you get a few people that put your name out there to the right people and you catch on, or you don't. And so you've got to have somebody who, no matter what, knows that it's actually your spiritual journey, that it's not like a hobby, it's not something that you could not be doing, it's who you are. And so you, what my writing students are always hoping I have some kind of trippy calculus about how to get their work done. And I say, you don't give up, you know, you're like the Nike ad, you just do it. But it's almost impossible to do that without the connection to one person, or maybe two or three people who just think the world of you, who would never let you give up, who would show up and with their arms on, you know, crossed and glare at you and say, how long downtime do you need? How about 3 days? How's next Monday work to get back to it? So,
Right.
yeah. So that's always when I teach, I always say, look around at who's here, because if you have a little group of you, 2 or 3, who are going to meet every other Thursday at your favorite independent bookstore, and you have to show up with pages, you're halfway home.
That's
Tell
so
me, do you want to give a shout out to your favorite independent bookstore?
Oh, sure. The Toadstool bookstore up here in Peterborough, New Hampshire is a treasure.
Okay.
And they're really the center of the community, and they do wonderful events, and they have a really majestic selection of ranging from poetry to art books to current releases. They're a real jewel.
Yeah. Okay, good. And are you writing now? Are you writing now?
I am. I am. Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm. I mean, I mean, not right now. Right now, I'm having a very special experience of talking to you. But I am trying to develop a few screenwriting projects. One is adapting Hex as a screenplay, and another is developing a screen project around Virginia Woolf and her cohort. I recently wrote an essay about Vita Sackville-West, who was another writer who's affiliated with her. And I discovered this wacky world of rule breaking that they were engaged in the 1920s that really caught me by surprise. So I'm interested in sort of exploring that circle a little bit more. Yeah.
When I was coming up, I dropped out of college when I was 19, and for me, the world was about Virginia Woolf.
Really?
It was about Vita, and it was about yeah. And back then, this is 46 years ago, I read every single one of her journals, didn't you? And all those collected letters of correspondence, every word of it. And it was like, it's like how people feel about the Tiger King now. I felt that way about Virginia Woolf.
That's right.
Yeah. Who did you feel about like that when you were, I mean, you're very young, but when you were first starting out as a writer, who did that for you?
Oh gosh, well, you, frankly. And
Barbara
then,
Kingsolver.
oh, sorry.
Barbara Kingsolver. I read about 2 pages of Barbara Kingsolver maybe 40 years ago. And oh my God, Margaret Atwood. I was in my early 20s when I read my first Margaret Atwood. I think it was called Surfacing. And it was like standing too close to a Buddhist gong, you know, it was like reverberating. I read 2 pages and I went, I am so in. I'm in. And then I read every single thing they'd written. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Who else was there?
No, you know, I remember in high school, I was absolutely bewitched by All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren. That's such a sort of, I guess, stuffy choice at this point, but there was something so majestic and so elegant about the scope of it. And it was one of the first books that really made me think literature is immense and it's unlimited. And it's a huge playground and it carries incredible grace. That really made a huge impression on me. And then in college, the poetry of Louise Glick really steered me. I mean, she was a teacher at my school, and I couldn't believe the power and the rigor and the intellectual force and the human feeling of her work, and to have the opportunity to work with mentors you revere has for me really been the driving force. I don't think I would have ever dared to keep writing had I not been encouraged by people I admired so much. And today is another one of those days.
Oh, what books of poetry and what single poems do you foist at younger people?
Wow, cool. What, I got heavy into the romantic poets in college, so I do love to recommend a little Coleridge and Wordsworth. But it goes from there through Wallace Stevens and Hart Crane and the mid-century work into more contemporary work like Louise Glück and Jory Graham, and Mark Strand was a huge mentor for me. And there's so much beautiful poetry being written right now. My friend Nicole Seeley has beautiful work coming out, and Noah Warren, who's actually the grandson of Robert Penn Warren. It's an incredible series of generations of beautiful work. Yeah.
I think it's such a profound form of communion, of ecumenical communion, to foist a poem or a book of poetry on somebody. And now it happens so often by internet or by email or something, but it was it was like the elements of communion. We used to have mimeograph machines that had blue ink, and they made your hands smell like a distillery. And somebody would have mimeographed a Denise Levertov poem for you, or the teacher would have, one of the hippie teachers would have made 30 of them, and she'd voice them. She'd say, read this. And it would literally blow your mind, the same way it would today. If I foisted a poem at you, it would just blow your mind. It makes you close your eyes and shake your head, right? You go, oh God. And you say, oh God. Once when my son was little, and he came to me and he said, I think I understand why they named God God. And I said, why? And he said, because when something is just so beautiful, you go, God. And when somebody hands me that poem, it has that exact same effect on me of sacred. It's sacred. And there's so much sacred in your book. I mean, there's so much sacred and mystical and just plain trippy that it was one of the reasons that I loved it so much. But you know what? I think that Robin probably wants us to close up pretty soon. But I took my glasses off so I would look more adorable.
You are so adorable, with or without, with and without.
Okay. Should we ask one more question, Robin?
Sure, absolutely. Ask one more question. Please do.
I'm putting my glasses on so I will temporarily look less cute. Awesome. What besides the virus is obsessing you right now, Rebecca? What are your obsessions?
My word. Can I tell you, the first thing that came to mind is dinner. My husband and I have had a real pleasure recently cooking together every night and trying to make creative recipes out of what's in our pantry, which has become sort of an arts and crafts project. But my husband is also very intrepidly planting our garden and teaching me every day about raised beds and about when the kale goes in. And, I still have so much to learn. So the house and our home and making it a home inside and out is really the center of our focus right now. And I feel a little bit obsessed with my own gratitude, if that's allowed, because there's really been so much kindness showered on me and on my book in this completely shattering moment. So I'm really just aware of how fortunate it is to be supported by this community, and really just keeping in mind that everybody needs to be well and safe right now.
Yeah, stay home. And thank you, Robin, and thank you, Carolyn, and most of all, it's such an honor to meet you, Rebecca. And
thank you.
And God bless you good, and get back to work tomorrow. How about you take the rest of the day off, have some dinner, and then both of us back to work tomorrow. Deal?
Deal.
My grandson says deal very fiercely. Okay.
And thank you so much, Robin. Thank you. And truly, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I mean, this was just amazing and just, I'm blown away. Rebecca
Hex.
Dinerstein, Knight, and Anne Lamott. And if you have questions, you can leave them below and on A Mighty Blaze. Thank you to A Mighty Blaze and everybody that helped us set this up. And take good care and happy reading, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, Rebecca. Bye, Robin.
Thank you, Anne.
Bye.
Thank you, Robin. Bye.